Yeah. Hey. Hey. All right. Hey. Yeah, I mean.
So we about to take off.
Hey. Please do remain calm. About to run against it and with a little bit of soul, no times.
Welcome to Please Remain Calm. I'm Ben Gonzalez.
And I'm Daniel Gonzalez. As always, the opinions expressed here on the Please Remain Calm podcast are our own. They do not reflect the opinions of the Los Angeles City Fire Department or the Los Angeles County Department of Health Services.
I don't know if that really exempts us from any kind of like lawsuit. You know what I mean? And we do talk a lot of shit on here. We've just been lucky to roll under the radar.
I'm just trying to follow the rules, number one.
Yeah.
And number two, I don't think we're under our radar anymore.
Yeah,
There are
that's true.
plenty of,
We have had a lot of brass in here now.
Yeah, a lot of brass in here. And I just people hit me up a lot about, hey, I heard the podcast this week or whatever.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Yeah, we're very popular.
That being said, if you guys are listening to the podcast and you enjoy it, please continue to share it with your friends and family and coworkers and people that you know enjoy podcasts.
Yeah. And if you are sharing it, I'm assuming and hoping that you're sharing like recent episodes, because we've noticed this too. We get a lot of like new listeners, and I think people start with episode 1. And I just want to say, episode 1 is fucking terrible.
Well, I mean, you pick out anything, dude.
Yeah.
Anybody, you go back to episode 1 of Rogan or whatever, they're not that great.
Yeah.
But even like our 2 or 3, whatever, they're
We got
pretty good episodes.
We got
They're
markedly better from episode 2 up, but it's just funny because like episode 1 is like has our most downloads, like, you know,
Yeah.
It's the
It's
most
so
listened to episode,
all over the place,
and it's
yeah.
fucking it's just awful. We had like no idea how to podcast back then. Like this is for both of us. This is the first show that we ever did. Like
There's
this.
a couple of shows that, like I've been thinking about that. We should go back and like have the guest back and like just redo the show,
or just
revisit it.
redo the show, like kind of like just produce it better now that we know like what we're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like they're really good shows, and then sometimes like I'll listen to like a New York Times podcast or some shit like that, and like where they really are breaking stuff down. It's like, damn,
People
we
that
could have
really
done this
do
with a
podcasts.
few of our episodes, bro. Like,
Yeah.
damn, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, a little bit more produced. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've been kind of thinking about that and having that go down the pipe too, because as you noticed too, we've had less shows where there is, you know, our classic formula of somebody who got fucked up or jacked up in an incident. And we've been kind of like going off and talking about more topics, which was another thing that we're going to do today. We're going to finish up our discussion on paramedic school. It was a popular episode, you guys.
Yeah. So our paramedic school episode, we kind of cut it off at the end there, like right getting into internship.
Yeah, which is really the juiciest part of paramedic school, because that's when you're actually doing stuff and being a paramedic and maybe failing.
It really is like the meat and potatoes, like when you actually learn. And it's funny because like that has like never been more apparent than when I became a preceptor and actually started getting paramedic students. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so they come out and they just got done with school. They just got done with clinic and stuff like that, right? But they're just like babies, man. Like especially kids that didn't like work an EMT job that ran 911 calls and stuff like that. They're like friggin' deer in the headlights, dude, in their first couple of shifts. So you really like they learn all that stuff. They soak up all that information, and then you get into internship, and it's almost like this is where you really like put it all together and really start learning how to act. That it's not, you know, you're not just like learning stuff from a book or reading stuff or seeing pictures of stuff. You're actually like dealing with people and emotions and like personalities and stuff like that. That's where whether or not you become a really good paramedic that's effective in the field or not happens,
And
you know?
the main two people that you have to manage and the personalities you're going to have to deal with are the 2 preceptors.
Well, partly, yeah.
That can kind of make or break you too, depending on who you wind up with.
So that's interesting. So that's pretty much what we're going to talk about. We'll finish up with the paramedic school stuff, like internship, and just kind of talk about that. And then I want to touch on like being a preceptor and like the difference, like the transition of that.
Yeah. So you had a pretty wild story from your clinical days in Northridge ER. Thinking that you were going to intubate Chick Hearn, which is funny too, because that's like another like celebrity death that someone in our family has been around.
Yeah. Well,
There's like a list, dude.
I've had like multiple of those over my career. Like
yeah,
celebrity,
you
celebrity
did,
deaths that have
Dad
been
did,
around.
Nato did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fucking trip.
It is a
man.
trip.
It's probably like up to like 10.
Yeah.
If you think about it, man.
Fuck, maybe we're the problem. Am I the drama?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, you go through, we broke down clinic time and stuff like that. And then when you're done with clinic, that month of clinic time that you do in the ER, you go to a paramedic rescue to ride along for 2 months, basically, right? 20 shifts is what it's supposed to be.
Right.
And it's really just a crapshoot where you go too. Like, there's
it
a
depends
captain
on the school. The school will have kind of like contracts set up with different fire departments or paramedic providers. And we were at Mount Sac, and Mount Sac used they had some fire department slots, but there was a lot of people that did a private ambulance AMR.
Yeah.
Because where our school was, it was on the edge of LA County and San Bernardino County. And San Bernardino County had a lot of AMR as the primary medics.
AMR is the primary medic, and they just did shit like completely different out there. Like,
yeah,
they ran 1-on-1. So it was like the people that I know that actually the majority of people in class there at Mount Sac were people from the Inland Empire.
Yep.
That were coming over to take it there, that were leaving school and going straight to a 1-on-1 deal with AMR.
Yeah.
Which is crazy enough as it is, but we'll get to that. But yeah, even like getting into like the department that you want to get into, let alone like the station, or if you know somebody that's a preceptor, trying to get them as your preceptor, it's like almost impossible.
Yeah,
man.
it really is a crap.
There's so many like variables with the school and all that stuff to like to figure out like where you're going to get placed. And then like being a preceptor now, knowing that like LA City has a captain who does that, they'll get like a certain number of paramedic students, that need preceptors with LA City, like our own guys and stuff like that we send to paramedic school.
Yeah.
Or like my intern right now is a cadet. There's like a program where they'll pay for the cadets to go through paramedic school as like an investment in them coming back. So yeah, it's just like, and even then it's like you're not guaranteed. Like Bernie had a friend whose husband was going through paramedic school, and he had hit me up, "Hey man, do you ever get pre-sent?" I was like, "Yeah, dude, I get interns all the time. It's, hey, is there any way in trying to pull the strings and stuff like that?" And so I made a phone call, and it just like, there's no guarantee of where you're gonna go.
Yeah.
So you could get like an area that's like super rural, where you're getting like these types of calls, like farm incidents and like industrial shit.
There was a guy in my class at Mount Sac that was at what was the ambulance company, like in Barstow or something, like Desert Ambulance, and that was like his internship, dude. He was at Desert Ambulance, dude. You could have like an hour-long transport time.
Yeah, and then you could wind up screwing yourself because you have to get a certain number of like ALS contacts, actual ALS transports when you're in internships. It's like you can't go to like some Sleepy Hollow spot and not get any fucking runs, So there's times like that too, where somebody will get like, an internship spot at some super slow spot, and you're just like, damn, we're just not getting the runs, or they'll have to like reassign them to a different station just because they're not getting the runs there.
So then what'll
happen is that station will like, all right, man, our guy's not getting runs. We're just not getting the runs from the contacts. So you'll call like 66s or 33s or 64s, in South Central, and be like, hey man, we got this intern. Can we swap districts for the day?
Yeah.
And you guys, and they're like, fuck yeah. Hell yeah. I'll go to 23s, bro, at the beach.
I did that for a day.
Yeah. It's sometimes you do it, man, just to see what you get, if you're in a spot where the kid's not getting a whole lot. But
see, so that's the other thing that can happen though. You might not get it, you're hit your amount of like intubations or trauma runs or whatever it may be, and you can get extended. You're supposed to do 20 shifts, which is 2 months. But if they don't think that you are ready yet after 20 shifts, then they can keep you for another 10 shifts.
It's basically if you're like, I don't want to say if you suck, but if you're like obviously
it's not safe to put you out.
If you're obviously having trouble, yeah, and that's kind of where like being a preceptor kind of sucks, because like we'll talk more about it, but like you go through this whole process of becoming a paramedic. Like you're in the fucking toils of like getting through, even like didactic, right? Like I talked about the amount of studying, we talked about it, the amount of studying and stuff like that, right? And at clinic, maybe you freaking had a dead kid you dealt with and all this traumatic shit that you saw in there, and people that you met there and stuff like that, and you got through it and you did it. You got your intubation and stuff like that. So as a preceptor, when somebody comes out and they just, like I said before, now it's like, it's not just the book shit. You could be the best at taking tests and doing the book shit and seeing pictures of stuff and stuff like that. Now it's real life. There's like real emotion.
And
I've talked in the past, man, about like that's probably like the most difficult thing for me personally that I've seen as a paramedic. Like people always ask, like, what's the fucking craziest thing you ever seen? All that stuff, right? Sorrow, man. Sorrow is the worst. It's the like sudden sorrow, sudden death, shocking sorrow. It is the worst human emotion to witness and watch and to like be associated with and watch. It like seeps into your soul, man. It is the fucking worst.
Yeah.
And it, like when I do have trouble sleeping or I have dreams and shit like that, it's those moments that I have them of, you know what I mean? Because you feel that. It's like going to a movie. When you go to a movie and there's like a fucking like emotional scene, like, and the actor's really, really quality and you feel it, Or like when I saw Seven for the first time, I left the theater and I was just like, God damn, like what the, like I feel like I want to throw up, like my girlfriend cheated on me or something, right?
Yeah.
That's what it fucking feels like watching that, and you get done with the run and it's like fucking, lunch waiting for you at the station or whatever. The guys are in the middle of a movie and you're just like, and you push it, you shove it way down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How did I get onto that? Why was I even talking about
that? I think we were talking about how you get to see that then hit the paramedic interns for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they don't prepare you for that.
So you come through all that stuff, and I survived didactic, I survived clinic, and then you come out and it's real shit out here. You know what I mean? Like real like emotions, real attitudes. Hey sir, calm down. Let me talk. Calm down. Fuck you, man. You know what I mean? It's like, whoa, it's like real life out here now. So you could be the best at taking tests. You could be top in your class. You could be the most personable person in the ER, and then come out to the field and just life running calls in that area that you're on just doesn't fucking click with like who you are. And you gotta, and the shitty part is, you got to push through that stuff as a student. You have to push completely through that.
Hell yeah,
and do it right now, because this could happen anywhere, anywhere. It doesn't matter where you are. Or you're gonna meet a million different personalities out there in the real world, and not only that, you're not meeting like these normal people, how they normally are in their everyday lives. You're meeting them in these like fucked up situations.
Time,
the absolute like worst, most jarring situations of their lives. You know what I mean? So that's an aspect of it that you have to be prepared for.
Yeah.
Because
they don't prepare you for it. You go out and you're in there and like, that people are going to die, but you just don't think about the fact that like they die suddenly. Their family is there. They don't expect them to die. Yeah. And then they do, and then the family is just like, oh shit, and you're just there with the family for a few minutes. It's like, all right, this really sucks.
It's whack.
Yeah, it does.
And it takes a little getting used to like doing. But then on top of that too, you got the fire station also, right? So depending on where you're at, you might have 12 other personalities too that have their own idea of who you are and what you're doing, and have their own ideas of like how to treat somebody who is in your position. You know what I mean? So you might have guys that are just dicks for no reason, because everyone was a dick to them when they were coming up.
If you don't know who's who, you're the new guy at school.
Yeah. And so there's that too. So like when you talk about going to internship, man, it's not just like being prepared to like, do the skills and all that stuff. Like you got to realize like you got to be prepared to like almost cater to, well, not almost, like really, because I've said that before too. We're in the customer service business, right? You got to kind of cater to people's personalities a little bit. And it comes in handy. Yeah. Your ability to do that comes in real handy once you have a full grasp of being a medic like trying to get what you need to get out of people and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Your ability to like adjust to personalities and stroke those egos and stuff like that really comes in handy. Because if you're a freaking rock, dude, I'm telling you right now, if you are just a solid rock kind of person, like it's my way or the highway, and there's no adjustment in me, it's a rough road trying to get what you need to get out of people to help in order to help them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, people aren't really forthcoming with the information to you. You know what I mean? It's not an easy road all the time, man. And your personality, your ability to deal with people goes a long way. And
I've been both, man. Like I've been both. I've been that like kind of like hard, like just like run down, like done with being at a place.
Or you'll work with those guys.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, dude. I'm telling you, man. And even still to this day, like last night, I'm tired right now, right? Yeah. We got up at 2 a.m. for a run, and then we didn't go back to sleep after that, right? And I went to bed at midnight or whatever, so I'm like 2 hours sleep. But it's like you get back, you take off your stuff, you start to walk upstairs, and you're like, oh, sweet, man. You're thinking about getting back in bed already, and then another run comes in. And you're just like, fuck, you know, and you get in, you're just like MFing the run all the way there. But then as soon as you get there, you have to, hey, what's going on? You know what I mean? It's just like setting the tone for if it's going to be a rocky ass road where you're just not going to get shit done. It's going to be the worst, or just smooth sailing. You know what I mean? So
that's like a good part about internship, though, is that you are going to be faced with having to manage that. And like you said, it's like customer service internally and externally, because it's the patients, your preceptors, and all the other guys in the station. There could be sod guys coming in, because you're literally the bottom of the totem pole.
Yeah.
You know, you're the last guy that belongs there.
And here's the thing too, like you hear this all the time. First impressions are everything, right? Okay. That shit is super, super, super true when you're in paramedic school. Like your presentation, you meet so many new people, and just like you said, especially now these days, there's so many like vacancies all across the city and stuff like that you do get. Like me right now, right? I have an intern. He just had shift 3, I think. And right before he got here, my partner Ren, we had this call, this big dude we had to carry across a lawn and like under a hedge and through a broken fence to get him out of this place he was at. Difficult breathers, so we had to carry him. And like 3 guys at the station went off with back injuries, right? My partner was one of them. Fucking low back was hurting. So he goes off. Well, those things, they don't mess around with that stuff, right? So he's off, he's light duty, he's just not there right now. So every shift, my intern has me and somebody different, else, right? And if I'm working side at a different station, I show up and like, hey, we got this intern, and I look at the kid and he's, you know, shirt's untucked, his boots are unzipped, you know, he's unshaven or whatever. It's like my thoughts on him, or my initial thoughts are like, okay, this kid doesn't have his shit together. Yeah. Right. And like that might translate into how much I allow you to do, how comfortable I feel with you, even before you even like running a call or anything. You know what I mean?
Even saying anything.
Because I don't know you from Adam.
Yeah.
So I think like the first lesson to be learned is like when you are going to internship, man, treat it like it is like your first day on the job with the fire department. If you're trying to get in the fire department, I mean, really, really, really put your best foot forward. And there are still drills that, you know, in terms of like required to do. You still have to do like every day you're supposed to do a drill.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, patient assessment, or it'll be on like the policies.
You give a oral report on one of the pieces of equipment or a policy or a skill or something. You explain it to the entire room of firefighters all at once.
And those are like your opportunities. You know, I look at every single one of those as like a first impression opportunity, like or a way to like show how together you are. And there's nothing to those things but studying, and it's all stuff you're supposed to study and know for your National Registry exam anyways at the end. So like you have to treat all of those drills and your appearance and the way you carry yourself in the fire station, you have to give all of those the respect that they deserve.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because the other thing to keep in mind too is like a lot of people that are going to paramedic school are obviously doing it in California, at least. The only way you make real money as a paramedic is being on a fire department. So a lot of people are doing it and going through paramedic school with the anticipation of trying to get onto the fire department. And you'd be surprised how small of a world getting on the fire department is. You know what I mean? Especially in your little area there's thousands of people that are usually competing for limited numbers of jobs.
Yeah.
So when you go and you have paramedics and you go to paramedic school, you know, even if it's like Santa Monica, like you know, you want to get on LA City and you get placed in Santa Monica or whatever. It's just like me and you know, with Altman, like this world, this community of like a fire community, it's a small community. You know what I mean? It's especially these days when like we're in the periods of time when it's gotten like harder and harder for people to get hired places, like friends that have gone through all these things that we've talked about on the show together, wind up different places and people talk. Yeah. People talk, man. So you always have to put your best foot forward when you're coming to internship, not only at the station, but on every single call that you go on.
Do you remember your preceptors?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember Mike's last name. God dang. I was just telling you before the show that my memory is like freaking going with names. But I want to say O'Connell, but it's not O'Connell though. Connolly? I think it's Connolly. Mike Connolly and Pat Morse. Patricia Morse.
Yeah, I was gonna say you had a woman, right?
Yeah. Pat Morse. At Fire Station 29. And they were great, man.
Yeah.
I loved them. Super nice. That's the thing too, like you could get a preceptor that's just a dick.
You can.
Or just like forgot where they came from or
I had a classmate that was assigned to the same station I was, 72's Canoga Park.
Yeah.
And his shift, he had a real hard ass, a mean dude.
Yeah.
I think he went on to be an inspector after that, but he got switched.
Oh,
because he asked to be switched. He's like, I can't. Yeah.
I mean,
I think the preceptors told the school too, like, I don't think this kid is right here.
It sucks too because that used to kind of be the culture. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I know.
Yeah, the fire department and everything. The culture was beat down the rookie, and I mean, I guess that's like got its roots in like military, beat you down to build you up, that type of shit. But I never could get on board with that, man.
See, like I remember though, he had the two guys they were like good cop, bad cop. Like had one guy who was super nice, and the other guy was a dick. And I wound up working with both of them when they worked like sod days on my shift and shit. And you know, they were cool, but I saw, you know, where the guy rubbed the dude wrong and shit. He just wasn't like, you know, built for it.
It's the worst, dude, having somebody who's a dick.
Yeah.
Trying like to rely on them to teach you shit or grade you. And then you know that he's got to sign your evaluation for that day too. So like, and you're young, you know, you're low man on the totem pole and all that. Put your best foot forward shit that I just said. Like you're trying to do that. And then to have somebody who's just like being a dick to you the whole day. So I had a guy like that, right? Yeah. Pat was off. This guy, this guy shows up to work a sod day there, right? And I'll say his name because he's not gonna fucking and his name is important to the story. Yeah, so his name was Ken Gibbs, right? Uh-huh. And so he's there and he's just kind of a dick to me, like not like overtly an asshole, but just kind of like doesn't want to talk to me, doesn't look at me, you know what I mean, that type of shit. And so I'm like, all right, man, this guy's kind of a dick, whatever. And then we got a couple. I had like one incident that just didn't go well. You know what I mean? Like interns do, and it was early in my internship, and whatever, man. He had his shit to say, and go through. Okay, yes, sir. You know, my bad. You know, I'm working on that. You know, whatever. So then a little bit later in the day, we get another incident, and I'm like, you know, you do a little bit, and then you turn and tell your preceptor, you know, okay, this is what we got. Blah blah blah. This is what I want to do, and my partner. Or my preceptor, Mike, had, you know, knows him. So he'd been calling him Kenny all day, right? Kenny. So when I go, all right, Kenny, we got this. And so in this incident, I was calling him Kenny as I was like asking him for stuff. Hey, can you do this? Can you whatever? So we get done. And typically after the call, you know, talk about it and stuff like that, right? So Mike's my preceptor. So we're talking about little things in the call. Went fine. And then this guy is like in the side door right there. I'm sitting on the jump seat. And he goes, yeah, and another thing, my friends call me Kenny, all right? You're not my friend. And he fucking shuts the side door and walks off, right? And I'm like, sitting in the back by myself, like, you fucking, like, what a fucking dick, dude. Fuck you, you know? And then that night, bro, I remember it distinctly, right? Like I can close my eyes and fucking picture it and like feel it. We got our ass handed to us that night, okay? One after the other, internship. And all the incidents went fine. I had that one call that like went squirrely or whatever. And then I had the incident where the guy fucking told me, don't call me Kenny, right? And I'm like, and then we had like 3, we just didn't go to sleep. So we finally go to bed and we get a run, right? And when I tell you, sometimes this happens, man. When you're running, when you're working 24s, or if you're working multiple days in a row, sometimes you'll get a run. You'll hear the alarm go off, and you'll talk yourself into staying in bed. I gotta think about that later. Like, oh man, was that for me? Oh, dude, that if it's for me, like somebody will come and get me if it's for me, or you'll just like convince yourself to not get your ass up and go make sure that it's not a run for you, right? Okay, that happened. It's a task force, so like the light force gets a run, or the engine will get a run by themselves, right? And typically, if the rescue was going by themselves, this is a phone that rings in there, right? So the lights go off and I'd miss the dispatch and just convince myself to stay in bed, right? Well, it was engine rescue. Yeah. And so the rescue took off. So in the morning I get up and I'm like getting ready to go. And Mike's like, hey, you missed a run last night. I'm like, oh shit, did I? You know? And he's like, yeah, I was about to go get you, but Kenny just said, just leave that dude and let's go, right? And so that stuck in my head too. I'm like, fuck you, dude. You know what I mean? Like, what is your problem with me? That was like the cherry on the top of the shift. Like I'm walking out the door and this dude, Kenny Gibbs. So it just stuck with me. And he had a distinct physical thing about him that always just stuck in my head. Kenny Gibbs, asshole with this thing, right? And because I wasn't even on the job yet. This is like a year before I got hired. Yeah.
But like you're on the list.
So whatever, man. I never hear of or see the guy again the rest of my life, right? Yeah. Cut to a couple years later. I've been a medic for a year already. I'm a McCormick. I get hired with LA City. I go through drill tower road probation. Fucking 3 years at Nines. Okay. And then I was trying to transfer out of Nines, and I just put in for all these like dream spots and 63s. Obviously, I'd been an explorer there and all that stuff, right? In Venice. I put in, I get rescue 63. I'm like, oh, so sweet, dude. I'm like 4 years on the 3.5 years on the job. I got 63s. So I show up there, or you always show up the day before you're gonna get there to meet your crew, get your keys, all that stuff, right? To check out your locker, all that stuff. And before I go, I look at on the computer. I looked at all the F11s for the 3 shifts just to see who works at the station. Who am I working with? Yeah. And there's an engineer, Kenny Gibbs, and I'm like, holy, instantaneous when I saw his name, dude. I'm like, oh my God, dude, this dude is an engineer now and he works at this station. Like, I am going to tell this MFer off. Now I got some hair on my balls at this point, right? I'm like 3.5 years in on the job, 3.5 years at Nines, mind you, right? Where I saw some shit and I've been through the ringer already at this point, right? Yeah. So I got hair on my balls, dude. I'm like Pretty Woman. I'm about to tell this motherfucker when I meet him and see him, I'm about to tell him off. Yeah. Cut to, I finally work an A shift there or whatever. It's the wrong Kenny Gibbs, right? This Kenny Gibbs, as soon as I saw him, I'm like, oh, that's not the guy. He didn't have the physical thing either. He just didn't look like him. Yeah. And Kenny is, if you're listening, the nicest guy in the world, right? I literally love Kenny Gibbs, the engineer from 63s, man. I was heartbroken when he transferred out because he was an actor too, and he's just like a big personality. He's the type of dude you fucking love to have at the fire station. But you talk about like you're so stressed out and so worried about impressing people and making a good impression and doing a good job, and you have so much invested in this thing called paramedic school, and this has so much to do with where you're going to end up in the future. The pressure, especially for me at 19, or 20 years old, however fucking old I was when it happened, or Mike, my intern right now, he's 20 years old, And on top of that, you got people's lives in your hands. You got all these medications you got to get straight. If I give the wrong dose of medication, I could kill somebody or kill a kid or whatever. And on top of that, you see the sorrow and you see all the shootings and all the other shit. It's a lot.
Yeah.
So to be a dick to that guy, it sticks with you, man.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me. It sticks with you to the point where 4.5 years later, the second you see his name, all that shit comes back up. You know what I mean? And when I tell you I was planning on what to say to this motherfucker, bro, I had it all planned out. And I was just like, even the day that like he was working, like it was coming up, I had a saw day coming up. I was like, oh, I can't wait till I see this fool in the morning by ourselves getting coffee, and I'm gonna shake his hand. I'm gonna be like, hey man, you don't remember me, do you?
My name is Inigo Montoya.
For real, dude. I was gonna Inigo Montoya his ass. And then it wasn't him, and it was actually Kenny. It was funny because Kenny sang he sings. He's a DJ and he sings and stuff like that. So he sang Proud to Be an American at our.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. And when it was happening, we were all like, come on, bro. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like a thing. And then I show up there and there's Kenny. And I was like, oh, fuck, I remember you. You know, you're the guy that's singing our thing. But yeah, Kenny's a great guy. I love him. But
he's singing at your graduation?
Yeah, he's singing at our graduation. Okay. But and at the time, it was like just after, you know, because I got hired in 2003. Yeah. So 9/11 had just happened a couple years before. So like Proud to Be an American. It was like super patriotic at the time, right? It was the whole thing. Of course. And so I just remember it, you know, they did the Pledge of Allegiance. They did the fucking all this shit. And then here comes Kenny singing. And we're all just like, what is going on, you know? And then years later, here I pop up and I'm getting ready to tell this fucking guy off, and here it is, the singing guy from our graduation.
You're not the
you are not him. And then he just winds up being
disappointed,
the nicest guy in the world, man. I can't express enough how much I love that dude, Kenny Gibbs. So if you're listening, Kenny, I know he listens to the podcast too sometimes. So shout out to Kenny. He's at the airport now, but yeah, man, it's your preceptors have so much to do with like if you're gonna succeed or not too, you know.
So here's what happened with mine, man. I had two guys. They were both named Dave. There was Black Dave and White Dave, right? Yeah. So Black Dave was Dave Riles. I don't remember White Dave's last name. Maybe it's Smith or something. But Dave Riles was the running back for the LAFD football team.
Okay.
So he was like a tank, dude. Right.
Yeah.
But he was cool. He was serious, but you know he gave me a chance.
What's his name from 95?
No, I'll show you.
Don.
I did, but here's what happened. Yeah.
Okay, go.
So then White Dave was a blue helmet guy, single function paramedic. His P number was like 200
or
something, right? Like to put in perspective, we're already old medics. Mine's 79. Wait, what the hell's my number?
Mine's 7635.
789. The 7890. That's my number. Yeah.
Oh, maybe I shouldn't say that.
Oh, whatever. Whatever. But that's
in
our
the
numbers. Yeah. And
this dude had
a 3-digit. It was like 20 something was his P number,
that's
right?
crazy.
Like, damn, you were just one of the first paramedics, right? And this dude was a Vietnam vet, and he was just a medic from Vietnam, and he could just do everything without looking. So he'd just be talking to me, starting lines, dropping, EJs, like just it was like amazing.
No gloves,
he was like,
probably.
He's like, I do this in the dark, I did this in combat. He's like, blah, 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 blah. He's just like a wizard, dude. Yeah. Like nothing phased him. Like everything was like super easy for him, man. Shit was so funny, dude. He was a big Jimmy Buffett fan. That's what I remember about him. Like, he had seen Jimmy Buffett like 20 times or some shit.
And like that shit is cool too. Like you can learn a lot of tricks from somebody like that, but it's also like as a preceptor now, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in like a flow state with shit, right? Like if I'm gonna start an IV, it's just like kind of non thinking about it. I have to slow all that stuff down and like remember how I got to that point also, so that I can tell this kid not only how to do it right, but the couple of stories that it took me to realize that this was the right way to do shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's funny, man, because I almost feel like it's like teaching my kids, right? Like, because I do that with the boys.
Yeah.
A situation will arise. I'll try to think back to when I was a kid growing up, something similar that happened. How did I feel when that shit happened to me? How did I feel when my dad found out about it, and how he probably fucking asked for the belt, or whatever, and reacted differently to it than I probably would have wanted. You know what I mean? Like, or in the situations where he reacted, where I felt like fucking warm and loved, inside. Like, I think back to those things and I try to apply that to how I teach my boys about shit. So I do that. I feel like I do that same thing with my interns to a certain degree. Like I'll see them making the same stupid mistakes that I made. Okay. You watch them do it in an incident. And it's like, I can say, look, dude, do it this way. This is how you do it. And show it. And who knows? He might have been practicing this IV this way hundreds of times before, right? Because he's got tests to pass and shit. And these are the steps you take to do this to pass the test. So to what the fuck? What are you talking about? I've been testing like the thing your brain is trained to do 100 times. Now you're telling me to do it differently. Like that's not a simple thing. And you want him to do it from this incident to the next incident while this person's dying in their hands and they're trying to remember all the shit they got to remember for this dying person. Oh, and I got to remember that I have to change this thing that's ingrained in my brain to this way because that's the way this guy likes it, right?
Yeah.
So if I can give you, this is how you should do it. This is why, man, because I used to do it this way and this happened with this patient. I also had this happen with this patient.
Yeah.
And this will happen if you do it this way. If you tamponade this way and they go limp or pass out and their arm goes down, now you're going to lose the tamponade. You could lose the IV. So get a hold from behind, tamponade. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things like that. It seems to click more when they have a full, complete understanding of why. Right.
Yeah, totally,
but,
man.
You know, there are preceptors out there. That's the other thing, too. You got to understand, man, is like, you might get a good guy who's like a good medic or something who's going through a divorce.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
You don't know.
And his wife is like taking half his shit right now. And he's just checked the fuck out of the station. You know what I mean? And now you got an intern. It's like, fuck, dude. Yeah. So he, you know, there are so many variables.
Because he has no say either when he gets an intern. You just get an intern.
No.
Yeah.
And
like,
let me tell you, man,
cool.
it's I mean, it's work having an intern, dude. Yeah. It's work. There's daily paperwork you have to do every day. You have to watch this guy to make sure he's not going to fucking kill anybody because he's operating. It's still your name on all the paperwork and stuff like that, right?
Your patients.
The major evals are a pain. They're like pages long that you have to write out and evaluate this person. And if they suck or they're screwing up and they're not putting in the effort and you have to extend them, that sucks too.
Yeah, it sucks to have to tell
them. Because you get to know somebody, you know what I mean? And like you want to see them succeed and you know all this stuff that we've talked about, you know, that got them to this point. You know all that stuff. You've been through it. And so like to tell somebody like, gotta extend your, it sucks, dude. Yeah. So
that's what happened with me. Like 5 shifts in, I'm working with them and they're like, hey, I don't know why why we got you. Like, why? We're both going on vacation.
Oh,
like
no
in
shit.
a month, we both go on vacation. We already put in, it's approved. Like we're off. He's like, so I don't know what happens with you because that's going to be like shift 15. He goes, so you're good. I think you're going to change stations or something, man. Yeah. And they put me in 20s, right? So that's when I was with Don.
Oh, okay.
All right. So Don was, him and his twin brother were on the job together. And they used to be medics at APT where I was an EMT.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So I'd met him once before, and then they both got on city and, you know, were gone and everything.
Yeah.
And Don played football for USC.
Yeah.
Like
football and baseball.
And
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He's big ass dude. He was like 6'5", like 270 or something, right? This huge guy. And the other guy was Masa, this Japanese guy. He was like super quiet. Yeah. Super quiet. And then Don just talked a lot. Yeah. Just told you all these stories and shit. But like how you were saying about like missing runs or something, right? Don had like, I don't know if it was sleep apnea full on, but he just snored hard, right? Yeah. And he snored hard to where like they wouldn't let him sleep in the dorm. Yeah. So he had to sleep in the TV room.
Yeah, still to this day.
Yeah. So he sleep in the TV room. And so when we get a run, I have to go wake him up because there's because when for the medics, if it's a medic only call, the alarm doesn't go off. It's just the phone rings. Yeah. So the alarm, no bell would go off in the TV room, no tones. And so he didn't know. Yeah. So I have to go in and wake this dude up, this giant dude who was like snoring, and he would like sleep like with his eyes open. Yeah. Yeah. It was like, God.
And you wake him up, he has like a night terror.
And I can't tell if he's awake or not. And he'd be like, answer me. Yeah. But he'd still be asleep. Yeah. And so we go get in the rig, and Moss is like, go get him. Man. I have to go back like, hey. Yeah. I mean,
he's still like that, man.
Yeah.
It's so funny about A Small World because he wound up, Don Kind of again, shout out to Don.
Yeah.
Wound up working in my same battalion, works in 95's LAX, but
Yeah.
he's still same thing, dude. You gotta go get him at night.
Yeah, it was cool as hell, man. And we wound up doing that same thing too, because I got there and it was like my 16th shift or 17th shift, I think, when I started there. And they were like, dude, we can't pass you in 3 shifts, dude.
Yeah.
He's like, you're gonna be here at least 25. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think I did 25. But yeah, there was, in that time we weren't getting enough, certain runs. So his brother was working at 66s, and they did the trade for a day.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and I got to run out of 66s for a day, and then I got some stuff.
Oh, it's perfect. Yeah.
It was cool, man.
Yeah, man. It's being an intern, dude. There's a lot of different things that you have to juggle, and ultimately, on top of it, ultimately in the end, you got to show your preceptors that, I'm the one that signs off that says you're good to be a paramedic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I said before, you could leave here and go work a private ambulance somewhere running IFTs, interfacility transfers, from the con home to the ER or something like that, where nothing's ever going to happen to you. You don't use your skills at all. Or you could, like, day one, wind up on AMR Riverside, running a cardiac arrest within 5 minutes of your first day on the job, and you're the medic on the incident, So you have to show, you have to, through all of that and all the pressures that you have in paramedic school, you have to show your preceptor that you can be trusted out there on your own, working one-on-one with somebody's life. And that's the pressure that a preceptor has to say, yeah, this guy's okay, or this gal's okay, or they're not. Yeah. And you have to look at every incident that you have in your internship as an opportunity to prove that to your preceptor, basically,
And you've got to make sure that this guy gets the grasp of everything that he's going to wind up doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because even the runs that you don't get, you still have to drill on other stuff. There's such a bag of tricks that you need, and so many different scenarios that you can run into, that just to try to prepare somebody in 2 months for that, it's not going to be enough. And
it's
you
a
just
lot,
have
man.
to try to do your best. You know what I mean? And that's why we want to do the second part of this episode and kind of explain this whole part of internship and precepting, because we were saying, like, paramedic school is like insane. And we were just talking about the didactic part and clinicals, but this part is literally like insane. Like, it's like really intense fucking kind of like on the job training that you don't get paid for at all. You're paying for it, and you need it for your job.
Yeah.
For the job you want,
And then it's a trip, dude. It's funny, man. Life in general. Like, you come up, your parents teach you all these, like, your dad tries to give you advice, like all throughout your life, and you take some of it, and most of it you fucking toss aside. I'm gonna figure it out myself, right? And all that stuff, and you hit walls and stuff like that, and eventually you reach a point where you go, God, or at least I did. I go, fuck, man, if I had just listened to, like, everything my dad had ever, like, advice he had given me, money wise and just decisions wise, as much as lame as they seemed at the time, if I had just listened to that shit, I'd probably be in like 10 times the fucking position I'm in now. And then, like, you grow as a person, and things that were super important to you before just, like, aren't that important, and just life changes, right? It's funny watching that happen, like, as a preceptor too, right? Because I can remember, like, coming up and, like, the way I looked at the world, the way I looked at patients and, like, running calls, the way I looked at treating people too, working at nines and stuff like that. People didn't have a lot of respect for themselves. So working so much and being so tired all the time and stuff like that, it's real easy to lessen the amount of respect that you have for these people that have no respect for themselves or for you at all, right?
Right.
And the way I looked at those things and thought about them, like, we used to do things like we'd have regulars. Everybody was a regular in nines, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But, like, we'd get somebody who we're with all the time, and like, they got had a cut on their head or something like that, and we'd wrap them up and we'd make, like, little, bunny ears on their stupid shit like that, right? That at the time was just, like, fucking funny. It was shit to pass the time, and now being older and, like, just knowing a little bit more about the world and what actually becoming homeless, like, what's involved with that, and just like
Yeah. You're
You know,
"Ugh."
just like life lessons and
Yeah,
shit that you learn along the way
Mhm.
have affected the type of medic I am too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's just a trip, man, being like going through all the shit that we've talked about with paramedic school
Mhm.
and internship and all that stuff, and then coming out the other end and now being a preceptor and like trying to like, you know, give all this information to somebody. And the whole time, man, I'm thinking back to my internship days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then on top of that, the world's completely different. Like everything that all the lessons that we learned coming up and stuff like that, they're different. Kids are learning different. They're, you know, socially different. There's all this different shit. So it's a trip, man. It's just, I liken it a lot to, like I said before, man, like raising kids and you're just trying to steer this kid in the right direction.
See, and then the craziest part about this, though, is like when you're done, you do like your last shift, you cook dinner for the whole station and everything. It's like, great job, kid. You know, you passed and everything, but you're still not done. You still have to take your exams.
Yeah.
You have to take your registry exam. So you could pass internship, go through all this shit, and then fail the registry exam. Yeah. Which happens almost a lot. And you wind up having to take that a couple of times. You know what I mean? Because that part's hard too.
Yeah, it's a national exam that everybody has to take. It's National Registry. Like you have to pass National Registry to become a paramedic, but you don't have to maintain National Registry, right?
No, you just have to get it initially.
Yeah, you have to get it initially, and then you can be
state license and a county license.
Yeah. But it's a legit test. I mean, that covers
hard,
everything.
dude.
It's like your final exam. So you could go through all of that shit, all of it, all of internship, save a bunch of lives, all that stuff, and fail your National Registry.
And it was 2-part. There was a written test, which was hard as hell. It had like 7 blocks or something and shit. And then there was a skills test, and you had to have the skills test administered by, you know, people where they watched you and you did all these like paramedic things. I forget how many it was, like 10 different things or some shit. And they were hard. And it depended on kind of also too with some things like the instructor you had, what they threw at you, or if they were being a hard ass or something. But you could fail on one thing and you are shit out of luck. You have to take the entire thing over again. And they would only put it on like in your city or at your school like once every few months. So if you failed that one, you didn't want to wait months again for them to come back and put it on again. You would find another test. So people were like driving to San Diego, Sacramento.
This is before it was all computerized. I mean, it's all computerized now, you know. But
even the skills. I think you got to still find somebody to give you a skills.
Oh, I don't know.
Skills evaluation.
Yeah.
But so it was like a bitch. Like once all this stuff was over,
but even
it
like
still wasn't over.
Even like the like National Registry, you know, like that new way of like doing testing where like you take the test, and if you're doing well, if you're like passing the questions as you go along, it's shorter.
Oh, really?
You know what I mean?
I didn't know they do
like
that.
It's and then if you're like screwing up, it'll be longer and longer and longer until they can like determine that like you're not going to pass, whatever. You know what I mean?
Cut you off?
Like that's how the system is now. It's like all computerized testing now. But yeah, it's a trip, man. It's just a different world. But then like, but that's what I'm talking about. Like the world shifts and changes, right? And then, but like everything that molded me to that's what I'm trying to teach this kid. So like, even like coming up, as I was coming up, like Pat was older, obviously, and Mike was a little bit older than me. And they would teach us some stuff that wasn't 100% in line with like what I'm learning in paramedics, like the new shit, right? And it was because Pat's been a fucking medic for, 25 years already. And so she's teaching me the stuff that works, actually works in the field. And so I keep that, I try to keep that in mind too, man. Like sometimes I'll be talking to this kid and I like telling him stuff and he'll just be like, I could see in his like confusion in his eye. And I'm like, well, what, talk to me. What? Well, that's not really what it says. And I'm like, okay, yes, that's true. But, but yeah, it's a trip, man.
Yeah. You got to be ready for anything, man. You had Chick Hearn come into your ER.
Yeah. One day we'll talk about all the celebrities and
I know,
people
right?
that I've run into. Man. We got to make sure the statute of limitations is passed on some of these people. I don't want to get in trouble.
I know, seriously, man. Yeah, I had my internship before I left the Valley. I ran on like one of the teachers that like we grew up with.
Oh yeah.
Like,
that's right.
Yeah, man. It's crazy. Like that could happen to you. You could run on somebody you know.
Oh yeah, dude. Or family members and
never
shit.
Know, dude.
That's like my biggest. It's like one of my biggest fears right now, but it's not really a fear. It's like our mom and dad's house.
Yeah, you
right
work
in the
first. Yeah.
But like having to respond to like well or something like that. But then at the same time, like you think like, fuck, man. If anybody. just because I know there's good medics and there's bad medics. You know what I mean? There's guys that breeze through internship. There's guys that barely pass internship on their 30th shift. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like knowing that, and that maybe it's a crapshoot of what medic they might get when they call. I'd rather it be me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. But at the same time, like I'm dreading having to show up. It shit happens, man. Mm-hmm. It's a crazy ass career, man, and profession.
It is, man. And seriously, it begins with you as an intern.
It really does.
It really starts. That's like your first taste.
I mean, everything. It really begins with you at, like I said, in the pre-course, how much you want to dedicate yourself to studying and being prepared. Man. Because one thing you're building on top of that foundation of knowledge, and the more understanding, the more, how we doing? The more understanding you have of like the pathophysiology behind shit and like why this thing that we're doing helps or whatever, the easier it is to make it all click in the end when you're combining it with emotions and all the other shit we talked about.
Totally. And like you don't think so until like you're doing it. And then also that really comes into play like working in the MAC, because then you have all these, hospital transfers that you deal with, and you get all these diagnoses. Like you never had to deal with this shit as an intern, but or as a paramedic, but since you already have like a basis of, anatomy and physiology and like an understanding of how the body works, all this shit makes sense to you. And it's
or even if you're like thinking of going into other fields, man, like Bernie, my wife is a PA, right down the street here at Cedars. But she was like head and shoulders above a lot of the people in a lot of her classes when it came to like skills and stuff like that, just because she worked as an EMT, for a time before that. And if you're thinking about doing something like that, or medical school or PA,
there's a lot of people working on
man, being a paramedic. And that's the other thing too, man. I've always thought like damn, I wish I had become an EMT earlier, just to do that as a job, because all my other jobs that I have when I was that young freaking sucked. Like all the retail jobs. I worked at JCPenney.
You were a trainer.
Yes, Bally. That was actually a cool job. That was actually a cool job. I got to work out for free, but Home Depot and different jobs that I've had, it's like, damn, being an EMT was a lot more fun than those, and I got paid decently. You know what I mean? And the time off, because I worked 24-hour shifts and stuff like that. Like it was really fucking great for a job. You know what I mean? Like I paid my rent, it's got its ups and downs, but like,
I had fun, but we got paid shit when I was an EMT.
But yeah, man, if you're thinking of going into any of those fields too, EMT and paramedic, all that stuff, it's a good way to make money, number one, or have, do it as a job first, but it's also, it lays the groundwork for a lot of the shit you're going to learn in a lot of your classes for that stuff too. So.
And if you are, if you're considering going into paramedic school, we hope these episodes have helped you. Just know what you're getting into and really commit. You know what I mean? Like it's overwhelming, but you can do it. Everybody who's working got through it, so you can get through it too. But you just have to like make that commitment and really know, how much of your time you have to dedicate to it, how much of your focus, because it takes a lot. But then once it's done, and then you start making some real money, doing some cool shit, and you'll probably get hired on somewhere that you want to work.
There's a couple guys on my shift that are they're going into paramedic school in the next month or so, 2 months. They were asking me like, what to expect. I go, dude, in all honesty, just listen to. We literally just did 2 episodes on paramedic school. Listen to them. I break down everything for you.
And if you're in it now and you're going through the shit, or you're in clinical, you're in internship, and it's hard, just hang in there, dude. You already made it this far.
Hang in there,
you know what I mean?
And then take this episode and pass it along around your class and to everyone that you know.
Yep. And if you fail, good luck getting back in. You know what I mean? Like you might make it the second time. There's no shame in that. It happens a lot. We had a guy that replied to us for the last episode, said he went 5 times.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean? That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Get up, dust yourself off, and do it again. Like I said, I was in an entire class of people who was their second time going through. So,
yeah.
All right, man. I feel like we covered it all right there.
Good job, buddy. Yeah. Hopefully we help some folks out.
You guys, please share keep sharing the podcast with people. We've been getting a bunch of new subscribers and followers and stuff like that. So you guys are sharing it. We really appreciate them, and still the only way that we're getting the word out about the podcast is you guys sharing it and letting people know about it. So we really appreciate that. Continue to do that, please. You can follow me at DannyGonzo34 on Instagram and Twitter.
You can follow me at Ben9Humor, Ben number 9 Humor, like benign humor on Instagram and Twitter. You can also follow the show at PRC Pod on Instagram and Twitter, or at PRC Podcast on TikTok, or email us, contact prcpod@gmail.com. We are working on more merch.
Yeah, I've actually,
people are asking now.
We ran out of t-shirts.
Yeah, we got to get like stickers,
and,
magnets, but we're gonna start a new wave of merch.
Couple weeks
Hot
here.
merch. If
Get off my case, people. I'm getting merch.
If you want my personal comedy merch, holler at me. I got Netflix and children's shirts. You can send those out. You know what I'm saying? If you're a big fan of your boys' jokes. And other than that, anything else?
No, thank you to Top Tree.
All right, yeah. Shout out Top Tree. Thank you.
We'll see you.